Most people think McDonald's became one of the biggest companies on earth by selling burgers. But that explanation leaves out the most important part. Because beneath nearly every Golden Arches restaurant lies something far more valuable than the food served inside every single day. One decision made decades ago quietly transformed McDonald's into a business that millions of customers never even realize they are seeing. And once you discover what that decision was, you'll never drive past another McDonald's the same way again. It isn't the kitchen. It isn't the fries. And surprisingly, it isn't even the restaurant building itself. The real value is the land beneath it, a piece of property that can become more valuable year after year. That's why many business experts don't just call McDonald's a fast food company. They call it a real estate company. But to understand how that happened, we have to go back to a small restaurant in California during the 1940s. In 1940, two brothers named Richard and Maurice McDonald opened a small hamburger restaurant in San Bernardino, California. But unlike everyone else, they weren't trying to build a bigger restaurant. They wanted to build a faster one. So they redesigned the entire kitchen, turning food preparation into an efficient system that delivered meals in seconds instead of minutes. Customers loved it. Lines kept growing. And before long, one unexpected visitor walked through their doors and changed everything. That visitor was Ray Kroc, a traveling milkshake machine salesman who noticed something unusual about one small restaurant. While most people saw busy lunch lines, Ray saw a business model that could work almost anywhere in America. He convinced the brothers to let him franchise the restaurant, believing this system could spread across the entire country. Restaurants began opening in new cities, and the Golden Arches slowly became a familiar sight across the American landscape. But as the company expanded, Ray discovered a problem that would eventually reshape McDonald's forever. Opening new restaurants was exciting, but finding the right locations, every single time, was becoming much harder. A great restaurant in the wrong place could struggle, no matter how good the food or service happened to be. Leaving that decision to individual franchise owners created risks that could slow the company's growth for years. Ray realized that if McDonald's wanted consistent success, it couldn't leave its future to chance. So instead of changing the menu, he made a decision that completely changed the business behind it. Ray's solution had almost nothing to do with burgers. It started long before customers ever walked through the front door. Instead of letting franchise owners find their own locations, McDonald's began taking control of that decision itself. The company focused on busy intersections, growing neighborhoods, and places where thousands of people passed every single day. Those weren't random choices. Each location was selected because the land itself had long-term value beyond the restaurant. That simple shift changed McDonald's from choosing restaurants to choosing valuable pieces of real estate across America. And once that strategy was in place, the company began growing in a completely different way than most people imagined. Every new restaurant became more than another place to sell burgers. It became part of a much larger long-term strategy. As new communities grew around those locations, the land itself often became more valuable than when it was first chosen. Customers came for the food. But behind every busy parking lot was a carefully selected piece of real estate. The restaurants generated business, while the locations quietly strengthened the company's position year after year without attracting much attention. Most people noticed the menu, the logo, and the drive-thru. Very few noticed what made those locations so valuable. And that hidden advantage explains why McDonald's has always been much more than just another fast food chain. Ray Kroc realized that opening hundreds of restaurants wasn't the hardest challenge. Choosing the right location was. A great location could save customers for decades, while a poor one could limit even the best restaurant potential. So instead of leaving that choice to every franchise owner, McDonald's made the decision long before construction ever began. By controlling the land first, the company gained something far more valuable than another successful restaurant. It gained long-term control. When someone opened a McDonald's, they weren't simply buying the right to sell burgers. They were joining a carefully designed system. The restaurant was built in a location already chosen for its visibility, traffic, and long-term potential, not just today's customers. In many cases, McDonald's already controlled the property beneath the restaurant, giving the company influence beyond the kitchen itself. The franchise owner focused on serving customers every day, while the location quietly supported the business year after year. That's why McDonald's wasn't just expanding its restaurants. With every new location, it was strengthening an entirely different kind of business. As American cities expanded, many of those carefully chosen locations became busier, more valuable, and even harder for competitors to match. A restaurant can be copied. A burger recipe can be improved. But decades of carefully chosen locations are much harder to replace. The longer McDonald's stayed in those communities, the more those locations became part of everyday life and local business. That's why many people describe McDonald's as a real estate company that also happens to sell millions of burgers every day. So the next time you drive past a McDonald's, don't just notice the burgers, the fries, or the famous golden arches. Take a closer look at where it's built, because that location may have been the smartest investment of all. Sometimes the biggest companies aren't defined by what they sell, but by the decisions most people never stop to notice. And maybe that's the real lesson behind McDonald's. Not every billion-dollar business looks like the business you think you're seeing.